Hello everyone and welcome to the biology lecture series, and today we'll be doing some practice problems that are related to the chapter respiration. Alright, so in the previous lecture I've told you about the respiration, how can we define respiration, then we discussed about the metabolisms and the type of respiration, okay, and then we talked about the respiration in plants as well as respiration in the animals, and then we talked about the cellular respiration, and we talked about the steps that are involved in the aerobic respiration. Clear? So in this lecture we'll be solving some objective type questions that are related to the chapter respiration. So let's start with the first question. So what is the first question? First question is, the breathing rate in mammals is controlled by a part of the brain called, so breathing, it is regulated by a part present in the brain. Okay, so usually breathing is involuntary action. Okay, it is controlled by the autonomous nervous system. But in case of vigorous exercise, okay, or when there is a deficiency of the oxygen in the blood, then breathing rate can change. Now, what is the region of the brain that helps to regulate or control the breathing rate? Now, let's have a look at the options. First option is the thalamus. Second option is hypothalamus. Third option is medulla oblongata. And fourth option is cerebellum. Okay. Now, this question we have already discussed. So, answer to this question is medulla oblongata. Now, what is the explanation? The medulla oblongata, it is situated within the hindbrain. So, brain is also divided into hindbrain, midbrain, and forebrain. So, this medulla oblongata, this is present in the hindbrain, okay, and extends to constitute the brainstem. Now, it oversees all involuntary functions, including the heartbeat, breathing, and others. So, I have already told you that breathing is an involuntary function, okay, as well as the heartbeat. So, heartbeat is also involuntary. You don't have to think about it. Whenever you breathe also, you don't have to think about it. You can do it without any thought. Means it is happening involuntary. All right. So, these type of involuntary action, these are controlled by the autonomous nervous system. These are controlled by the autonomous nervous system. Clear? And this medulla oblongata, this regulates the breathing, which is present in the hind brain. Clear? Now, let's have a look at the explanation for the incorrect option, why the other options are incorrect. So, one of the option was thalamus. So, thalamus is accountable for relaying the motor information related to movement and coordination. So, that's why it is an incorrect choice. Alright, now next is the hypothalamus. So, hypothalamus, what is the primary role of the hypothalamus? Is to regulate the body's internal balance. So, it helps to maintain the homeostasis. So, one example you can say maintenance of the body temperature. Okay, example of one phenomena that is controlled by the hypothalamus, that is the maintenance of the body temperature. Maintenance of the body temperature. Okay. Now this body temperature, or if we talk about the humans, the normal body temperature is 37 degrees Celsius. This is the normal body temperature. Now, if there is some changes in the temperature or the internal temperature of the body, then what happens? Hypothalamus will send some signals which will help to maintain this 37 degrees Celsius. Okay, so this is the role of the hypothalamus. It helps to maintain the homeostasis. Now, one of the option was cerebellum. Why cerebellum is not the correct answer? Because its primary responsibility lies in coordinating and sustaining body balance during activities such as walking, running, riding, swimming, and the precise control of the voluntary movements. Clear? So this is the role of the cerebellum. Clear? So that's why answer was medulla oblongata. The next question is in aerobic respiration. What happens? Let's have a look at the options here. Oxygen is taken in, carbon dioxide is taken in, oxygen is given out, or carbon dioxide is given out. So we're talking about the anaerobic respiration, which is also known as fermentation. So fermentation, you know, it is of two types. One is the alcoholic fermentation and another one is the lactic acid fermentation. Clear? In alcoholic fermentation, alcohol is formed which is known as the ethyl alcohol. Alright, so if we talk about the alcoholic fermentation, first is alcoholic, second is the lactic acid. So if we talk about the alcoholic fermentation, in this what happens? The glucose molecule, which is C6H12O6, in the absence of the, you can say, the oxygen. Okay, the glucose molecule first form the pyruvic acid by the process known as glycolysis. Okay, so glycolysis, what is the end product of glycolysis? Two molecules of the pyruvic acid. Then this pyruvate undergoes, if it undergoes incomplete oxidation, then what will happen? It will undergo anaerobic respiration. So anaerobic respiration is the incomplete oxidation of the glucose. So here pyruvate will form, if we talk about the alcoholic fermentation, it will form ethyl alcohol, means C2H5OH. So this is ethyl alcohol, also known as the ethanol. And apart from this, carbon dioxide is produced as well as ATP is also produced. So 2 ATP are produced. Clear? Now if we talk about the lactic acid fermentation, so here also first glucose will be converted into pyruvate and then the pyruvate or the pyruvic acid is converted into the lactic acid. Okay, along with lactic acid, carbon dioxide will be evolved and very less amount of energy released, that is 2 ATP. Okay, so what should be the correct answer here? Here no oxygen is required, so oxygen is taken in. This is not correct. Carbon dioxide taken in. This is not correct. Oxygen is given out, so no oxygen is released. Oxygen is released during the process of photosynthesis. And option D is carbon dioxide is given out. So you can see carbon dioxide is being released. So what should be the answer here? Option number D, carbon dioxide is given out. Now, let's have a look at the next question. So, disease called pleurisy, it is due to, so this also we have discussed about this disease, okay, in the previous lectures. So let's have a look at the options. Option number A is the inflammation of the pleura. Option number B is inflammation of the trachea. Option number C is inflammation of the alveoli. And option D is none of these. Okay. So pleurisy was because of the inflammation of what? Inflammation of the pleura. So what is pleura? Pleura is the outer membrane of the lungs. Or you can say the membrane that covers the lungs is known as the pleural membrane. That's why the inflammation of the pleura is known as pleurisy. Okay, this is the outer membrane of the lungs. Okay. Now explanation. The pleurisy, it occurs when inflammation of the pleura, it disrupts its smooth sliding motion. So because of the inflammation of the pleura, what happens? The sliding of the pleural membranes, it is disrupted. Now this is due to the respiratory tract infections, and the inflammation, it leads to pain exacerbated by deep breathing and coughing. So there is a lot of pain in this disease because of the inflammation of the pleura, and because there is an inflammation in the pleural membrane, then the sliding motion of this pleural membrane is disrupted. Okay, it cannot slide now because of the inflammation. There is a swelling of these membranes. So because of this, there is pain also, and there is deep breathing also. You start breathing very deeply, and there is coughing also. All right, this is clear. Now let's move on to the next question. The next question is, leaf respire with the help of, okay, let's have a look at the options: lenticels, stomata, plasmodesmata, or cuticle. So if we talk about the leaves, what are present in the leaves? So let's draw the structure. So if this is the epidermis of the leaf, and what does epidermis consist of? It consists of the guard cell. So guard cell, if we talk about the dicot plant, they are bean-shaped structure or kidney-shaped structure. Okay, so this is the cells of the epidermis, and this one is the stomata. Okay, so the stomata, they are present in the epidermis of the leaves, and these two are known as the guard cell. Okay, this is clear. So epidermis of the leaves, they consist of the stomata. And what are stomata? They are just modified epidermal leaf. Okay, but you can say they are the pores present in the epidermis of the leaf, or you can say surface of the leaf. Okay, and then what happens? Which are involved in the exchange of gases. So they are involved in the exchange of gases. Okay, this is clear. Now what are lenticels? So lenticels, these are again the pores which are present in the woody stem. So these are the pores, or you can say the raised areas. Okay, you can also call them the raised areas. Okay, through which the exchange of the gases takes place. Okay, stomata is involved. Stomata is also involved in the exchange of gases as well as the exchange of water also. So through stomata, water is also lost in the form of water vapor, that is known as transpiration. Now coming back to lenticels, these are the pores or raised areas present in the woody stem. Present in the stem, which stem? Woody stem. Okay, so this is clear. This is lenticels, but we are talking about the leaves here. So lenticels are not present in the leaves. And what are plasmodesmata? Plasmodesmata, these are the cytoplasmic bridges between the two cells. Okay, these are cytoplasmic bridges through which the two cells are connected, and there is transport of materials also through this plasmodesmata. So how does plasmodesmata look like? Okay, so these are the connections, cytoplasmic connections. So this is one cell, this is another cell, this is the nucleus of the cell. This is known as the plasmodesmata. Okay, these are the cytoplasmic bridges that connects the two cell. Okay, you can also draw it like this. You can make one cell, and you can make a connection here, and then you can draw it like this. This entire cell, you can draw it like this. So you have to make one cell here, and you can make another cell here. This is the nucleus of the cell, and here there is a connection. So this connection is known as the plasmodesmata. Okay. Now cuticle. Cuticle is the outermost hard covering of the leaves. Okay, so leaves are covered by the cuticle, okay, which protects the leaf. So what should be the answer here? Answer should be option number B, stomata. So stomata are present on the surface of the leaves that help in the exchange of the gases. Now, next question is correct statement is. So the statements are given and you have to select the correct statement. So option number A is roots of the plant respire through lenticels and stomata. So we have already discussed when we are talking about the respiration in the plants, then respiration in roots is with the help of what? Root hairs. So root hairs, okay, they are involved in the exchange of the gases. And there is lenticels and stomata are not present. Stomata are present in the leaves. Lenticels, these are present where? They are present in the woody stem. And respiration in roots takes place with the help of root hair, or exchange of gases in roots takes place with the help of root hairs. Now, next option is stem of the plant respire through lenticels. So, in woody stems, lenticels are present, okay, and that help in the exchange of the gases, or you can say that help the plant to respire. Option number C is both A and B, and option number D is both A and B are incorrect. Alright, so let's have a look at the answer. Answer is stem of the plant respire through lenticels. Now what is the explanation here? So lenticels, they are the lens-shaped spot functioning as a pore. Okay, so they are lens-shaped, you can say spot, or you can say it is a raised area, alright, which function as a pore, and it facilitates the exchange of the gases between the internal tissue and the atmosphere. Clear? So this is the definition of the lenticels. Now let's come to the next question. Now, which of the following is not a characteristic of good respiratory surface? Okay. Now, what are the options? Option number A is thin and moist. Option number B is large surface area. Option number D is close to oxygen and gas transport. And option D is thick and dry surface. Now, let's have a look at the answer. So, option number D is correct. Thick and dry surface is not good for, or does not act as a good respiratory surface. Now, what is the explanation? Now, the features of an efficient respiratory surface, it includes thin walls. So, walls should be thin, not thick. Okay. If the walls are thin, then only efficient exchange of gases can take place. So, the walls should be thin, then only efficient exchange of gases take place. So, okay, so the exchange of gases takes place by the process of diffusion. Alright, so for diffusion, the walls should be thin. Apart from this, a moist inner surface is required. So surface should be moist and not dry. And the surface area should be large. So more the surface area, more will be the exchange of the gases. And a dense network of capillaries should also be present surrounding the alveolus. Okay, so in if we talk about the humans, then what happens? The alveoli or the alveolar sac, they contain the blood capillaries. Okay, and these blood capillaries, they have thin walls and they have the moist inner surface also. Okay, and it allows for the easy diffusion of the gases. Now, surfaces that easily dry out and that are thick, or that are prone to damage, they are not conducive to the optimal respiratory function. Means they are not appropriate for the respiratory function, or they are not appropriate respiratory surface. Clear? That's why we require thin walls and the moist inner surface. The next question is respiration in yeast. Okay, so we have already know respiration in yeast. It is known as the alcoholic fermentation. This is known as alcoholic fermentation. And what does it mean by fermentation? Means it doesn't require any oxygen. Do not require oxygen, or it takes place in the absence of the oxygen, and this is known as anaerobic respiration. Okay, now let's have a look at the option. Option number A is takes place in the presence of oxygen. So this is not correct. Option number B, yield lactic acid and carbon dioxide. Again, it is not correct. Why? Because in yeast, okay, we observe alcoholic fermentation. In alcoholic fermentation, what happens? I have already told you. The pyruvic acid, which is produced at the end of the glycolysis, it is converted into ethanol, which is C2H5OH. So this is ethanol, also known as the ethyl alcohol. And along with it, carbon dioxide is produced and small amount of ATP is also generated. Clear? So lactic acid is not produced. Lactic acid is produced during the lactic acid fermentation, which happens in some of the lactic acid bacteria such as lactobacillus, or it can also take place in the muscle tissues during the vigorous exercise. So during vigorous exercise, what happens? There is a lack of the oxygen and the pyruvic acid is converted into the lactic acid, and that is the reason for the muscle cramps. Now this lactic acid is slowly metabolized in the liver, and the concentration of the lactic acid in the muscle decreases and you get rid of the muscle cramps. Okay, so this is also not the correct answer. Next is it is anaerobic, means it doesn't require, or it takes place in the absence of the oxygen and it produces carbon dioxide. So this option seems correct because here you can see there is no oxygen utilized and here carbon dioxide is also produced. So initially you have the glucose molecule which is first converted into pyruvic acid by the process of glycolysis, and then pyruvic acid can be converted into ethanol or lactic acid. Now last option is it takes place only in the darkness. So this option is also not correct. Clear? Now let's discuss about the lactic acid. So in lactic acid what happens? First the glucose will be converted into pyruvic acid, and this pyruvic acid, also known as pyruvate, it is converted into lactic acid. Okay, and along with it again carbon dioxide is produced and 2 ATP are produced. Okay, so this is known as lactic acid fermentation. So this is lactic acid fermentation. Okay, here lactic acid produced. Example can be lactic acid bacteria such as lactobacillus. Okay, and it can also take place in the muscle tissue during the vigorous exercise. So what should be the answer to this question? It is anaerobic and it produces carbon dioxide. The next question is muscle cell engage in vigorous activities. They build up high concentration of what? This already we have discussed. Lactic acid, pyruvic acid, alcohol or cholesterol. So what should be the answer here? Answer is very straightforward. It should be lactic acid. So I've already shown you during the vigorous exercise there is lack of oxygen in the muscles, and because of this the pyruvic acid is converted into lactic acid. So this is a kind of anaerobic respiration known as lactic acid fermentation. So lactic acid is produced because of the lactic acid fermentation. So you call this process as lactic acid fermentation. Okay, pyruvic acid is produced at the end of the glycolysis. So this is not the correct answer. And pyruvic acid is further converted into lactic acid or ethyl alcohol, or it can be completely oxidized, and that process is known as aerobic respiration. So pyruvic acid can enter the Krebs cycle also by first converting into acetyl coenzyme. Then alcohol is produced, you can say ethyl alcohol, it is produced during the alcoholic fermentation. Okay, and this alcoholic fermentation, this takes place where? This takes place, one example is the yeast, and this process is used for the production of alcohol. Now cholesterol is related to fats, so it is a sterol. All right. So cholesterol is also not the correct answer. So what is the correct answer here? Lactic acid. Now let's discuss the next question. The exchange of the respiratory gases takes place in an earthworm. So this we have already discussed in the previous lecture. Earthworm, how respiration takes in earthworm? Options are moist skin, gills, trachea, or the lungs. So gills, these are present in the aquatic animals such as fish. Okay, so fish is what? Fish is an aquatic animal or aquatic organism. And what happens? The water, it is taken up by the mouth, and then from the mouth it enters into the gills, and the exchange of the gases takes place in the gills. So gills is the respiratory organs present in the aquatic organisms such as fish. Now trachea, so tracheal system is present in the insects such as grasshopper. So when we studied about the respiration in the grasshopper, or you can say cockroach also, another example is cockroach. So tracheal system is present in the members of the phylum Arthropoda, which includes all the insects. So here what happens? Exchange of the gases takes place in the organs known as spiracles. Okay, and there is a system of trachea and the tracheoles, and the respiratory system in these insects is known as the tracheal system. So spiracles are the organ where exchange of gases takes place. So spiracles are what? They are tube-like structures. So these are the tubes. Okay. So in spiracles, what happens? The exchange of gases take place. Next is the lungs. So lungs are the respiratory organs in very complex organisms such as humans. And we have discussed about the respiratory system in humans also. Okay. So what should be the answer here? Answer should be option A, moist skin. So respiration in the earthworm takes place with the help of the moist skin. So we have already discussed in the previous question that good respiratory surface should be moist and it should be thin. So in earthworm, what happens? The skin is very thin, it is very moist, and below the skin, the blood capillaries are present, which helps in the exchange of the gases. So the blood capillaries, these blood capillaries, these are present just below the skin. Okay. And these blood capillaries, they help in the exchange of the gases. Now, let's talk about the next question. So next question is, oxygen is transported in the blood mainly by, options are leukocytes, erythrocytes, thrombocytes, and the blood plasma. So let's have a look at each of these. What are leukocytes, what are erythrocytes, what are thrombocytes, and what is blood plasma? So first let's talk about the erythrocytes. Erythrocytes, they are also known as red blood cells, RBCs. So RBCs at maturity, they lack the nucleus, but what they contain? They contain the pigment known as the hemoglobin. So hemoglobin, it is made up of two parts. The first is the heme and second one is the globin. So hemoglobin is made up of this heme and the protein known as globin. So you can call hemoglobin as a iron containing porphyrin ring that is known as heme. It consists of an iron containing porphyrin ring and it also consists of this globin protein. Okay, and this hemoglobin is the carrier of the gases. Okay, so you can say it is the carrier or it helps to transport the gases. Carrier of the gases. What kind of gases? So it can carry oxygen also. It can bind to, you can say, oxygen also. It can bind to carbon dioxide also. And it can bind to carbon monoxide also. Okay. So here we are talking about the oxygen. So in the humans, the RBC, they consist of the pigment hemoglobin, which is the carrier of the oxygen. So 98%, around 98% of the oxygen is carried by the RBCs and 2% of the oxygen is carried in the dissolved form in the plasma. Okay, now let's talk about the rest of the options. So what should be the answer here? Answer should be erythrocyte. Option B is the correct answer here. Now what is the explanation? Why erythrocytes I've shown, I've already told you why erythrocytes was the correct answer. Now let's have a look at the other options, why they are incorrect. So leukocytes, they play a vital role in the body's immune defense, aiding in the fight against the infection and various disease. So it doesn't carry the oxygen because it doesn't contain any pigment like hemoglobin. Let's talk about thrombocytes now. So thrombocytes, they are the platelets and they are minute, they are disc-shaped, they are cellular components which are present in both blood and the spleen. And what is the role of thrombocyte? Thrombocyte, they help in the formation of the blood clots. So platelets, they also are involved in the formation of the blood clots. So that's why this is all the correct answer here. Now next is the plasma. So what is plasma? So blood has two components. One is the plasma, another one and the other one is the cellular components. And the cellular components consist of RBCs, WBCs, and the blood platelets. So plasma, it is made up of 91 to 92% of the water and the rest 8 to 9% are solid. So what are the components of the plasma? So some coagulants are present such as fibrinogen. So fibrinogen is present. So fibrinogen is later converted into fibrin which helps in the blood clotting. Okay. Apart from these, some other proteins are present such as albumin, globulin. So these are also present in the plasma. Okay, so that's why plasma is also not the correct answer. So this was the end of the session. Thank you very much for listening.